Good Sunday morning, everyone. I believe the video is about to start. If it's not started already, uh, there we are. Good morning, good Sunday morning, and welcome to Sunday School. What I've got here in my hand is a 1973, so it's the second Weiser edition of what is known as the Blue Equinox. Equinox Volume 3, Number 1. Okay, there was no Equinox Volume 2. That was a period of 5 years of silence. It's a long story. But anyway, with the help of Frater Akkad and the Detroit OTO, Crowley had this published. So the Blue Equinox has to thank the American OTO people in Crowley's day for getting this published. This is a particularly sentimental volume for me, because shortly after my initiation into the OTO in 1975, of course I met Helen Parsons Smith up here in Dublin, California, and she was at my first degree initiation, and she sent me a box of books. She was operating what she called Thelema Publications in those days, and she published rare Crowley material, and she distributed other Crowley works, which not many people were doing. Okay, and she gifted me this, plus the Jimmy Page facsimile edition of the Lesser Key of Solomon, and a few other works. And this has been my, there was one earlier, 1972, limited edition of this that Weiser came out. So this is a rare book, but it's not that rare. And of course it's in a paperback. But anyway, most of the OTO official documents that emanated from Crowley are found in the Blue Equinox, plus other things. I'm going to read two things from it for Sunday school. But I thought while I was here, I would show you what I've done with it. Okay, this is my official kind of OTO record book too. Here I am a long time ago. Now I'd like to point out that this apron is also the style of apron used for the standard Masonic, at least in the United States, Royal Arch degree of Freemasonry. Now, at the time, I was not a Royal Arch Mason, but I hasten to point out that at the time, that style of apron was used in certain levels of OTO membership as well, because that's how it was done in Crowley's day, or how he dictated that it should be done in his day. So, and there is a record of my initiations into the OTO and the dates and everything else, and it goes on to this page here. And in the back of the book, I've got another early photograph of me in certain OTO regalia. And I've got my EGC, or my church credentials, also listed here there, there, how we do it. There we go, in the back there. So this is a precious book to me. It really is, and I hope. Well, I'm happy to be able to share it with you. Anyway, so I'm going to read for Sunday school Liber 2, which is the message of the Master Therian. But I'm also going to read, in honor of Sunday, I'm going to read an article in it by Frederick Codd called Stepping Out of the Old Aeon and Into the New. It's a very Sunday-ish thing to do. So here we go. Liber 2, the message of the Master Therian. It's an AA publication in Class E. The quotations in this message are from Liber Legis, the Book of the Law. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. The word of the law is thelema. Thelema means will. The key to this message is the word will. The first obvious meaning of this law is confirmed by antithesis. The word of sin is restriction. Again, thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay, for pure will, unassuaged of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, is every way perfect. Take this carefully. It seems to imply a theory that if every man and every woman did his and her will, the true will, there would be no clashing. Every man and every woman is a star, and each star moves in an appointed path without interference. There's plenty of room for all. It is only disorder that creates confusion. From these considerations, it should be clear that do what thou wilt does not mean do what you like. It is the apotheosis of freedom, but it is also the strictest possible bond. Do what thou wilt, then do nothing else. Let nothing deflect thee from the austere and holy task. Liberty, Liberty is absolute to do thy will. But seek to do any other thing whatever, and instantly obstacles arise. Every act that is not in definite course of that one orbit is erratic and hindrance. Will must not be two, but one. Note further that this will is not only to be pure, that is, single, as explained above, but also, quote, unassuaged of purpose. This strange phrase may give us pause. It may mean that any purpose in the will would damp it. Clearly, the lust of result is the thing from which it must be delivered. But the phrase may also be interpreted as if it read, with purpose unassuaged, i.e., with tireless energy. The conception is, therefore, of an eternal motion, infinite and unalterable. It is nirvana, only dynamic instead of static. And this comes to the same thing in the end. The obvious practical task of the magician is then to discover what his will really is, so that he may do it in this manner, and that he can best accomplish this by the practices of Liebertherscharb. These are Crowley exercises. See Equinox 1, Volume 7, or such others as may from time to time be appointed. It should now be perfectly simple for everybody to understand the message of the Master Therian. Thou must, 1, find out what is thy will, then 2, do that will with A, one-pointedness, B, detachment, C, peace. Then and only then art thou in harmony with the movement of things, thy will part of, and therefore equal to, the will of God. And since the will is but the dynamic aspect of the self, and since two different selves could not possess identical wills, then if thy will be God's will, thou art that. There is but one other word to explain. Elsewhere it is written, surely for our great comfort, love is the law. Love under will. This is to be taken as meaning that while will is the law, the nature of that will is love. But this love is, as it were, a byproduct of that will. It does not contradict or supersede that will. If apparent contradiction should arise in any crisis, it is the will that will guide us aright. Lo, while in the book of the law there is much of love, there is no word of sentimentality. Hate itself is almost like love. Fighting most certainly is love. As brothers, fight ye. I love this part. All the manly races of the world understand this. Love of Liber Legis is always bold, virile, and orgiastic. There is delicacy, but it is the delicacy of strength. Mighty and terrible and glorious as it is, however, it is but the pennon upon which the sacred lance of will, the Damascened inscription upon the swords of the knight monks of Thelema. Love is the law, love under will. So, that is the message of the Master Therian, written, I think, in about 1919 or thereabouts. And let me find where we're moving on to. I think here we go. And I discovered the bookmark that I had in this many, many years ago. Let's see if it even says it. Yes, 21 years ago. Almost 22. Lon Milo DuQuette, April 2nd, 2000. And the bookstore where I was speaking was the Tattered Cover Bookstore. Beautiful, very large, actually, bookstore in Denver, Colorado. Isn't that nice? And that was a little presentation. I really remember that speech and that appearance and that trip to Denver because I caught pneumonia. I mean, pneumonia. It was a chilly April, and I lost my voice completely during that talk, and I just barely made it through, and I was feverish, and the next day I had to fly to Vancouver and then on to Victoria, British Columbia, for a bookstore appearance there. And I literally had no voice at all by the time I was attempting to speak at that. It was a very traumatic, and I was lucky to survive. I truly was, because it was very cold, and I was definitely a Southern California boy. Anyway, thanks to my hosts of the OTO there in Vancouver and in Victoria for nursing me through that event. You could really credit the fraternal love and help when you're in a foreign country in that strange town and you're dying. Okay. Anyway, thanks to everybody there. Anyway, stepping out of the old aeon into the new. This is by Frater Akkad, who was instrumental in helping get this published. He was still in Crowley's good graces at the time that it was included, and it's just wonderful. And it's a Sunday, so it's a perfect Sunday school little essay. Stepping out of the old aeon into the new. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. As all of you should know, we've entered a new aeon. A higher truth has been given to the world. This truth is waiting in readiness for all who will consciously accept it. But it has to be realized before it is understood. And day by day, those who have accepted this law are trying to live by it. They realize more and more of its beauty and perfection. Each new teaching appears strange at first, and the mind is unable to grasp more than a fragment of what it really means. Only when we are living the law can that fragment expand into the infinite concept of the whole, or conception of the whole. I want you to share with me one little fragment of this great truth which has been made clear to me this Sunday morning. I want you to come with me, if you will, just across the borderline of the old aeon, and gaze for a moment at the new. Then, if the aspect pleases you, you will stay. Or it may be you will return for a while, but the road once open and the path plain, you'll always be able to get there again in the twinkling of an eye. Just by readjusting your inner sight to the truth. You know how deeply we've always been impressed with the ideas of sunrise and sunset, and how our ancient brethren, seeing the sun disappear at night and rise again in the morning, based all their religious ideas on this one conception of a dying and re-arisen God. This is the central idea of the religion of the old aeon. But we've left it behind us because although it seemed to be based on nature, and nature's symbols are always true, yet we've outgrown this idea which is only apparently true in nature. Since this great ritual of sacrifice and death was conceived and perpetuated, we, through the observation of our men of science, have come to know that it's not the sun which rises and sets, but the earth on which we live revolves, so that its shadow cuts us off from the sunlight during what we call night. The sun does not die, as the ancients thought. It's always shining. It's always radiating light and life. Stop for a moment and get a clear conception of this sun. How he is shining in the early morning shining at midday, shining in the evening, shining at night. Have you got this idea clearly in your minds? Then you've stepped out of the old aeon into the new. Now let's consider what happened. In order to get this mental picture of the ever-shining sun, what did you do? You identified yourself with the sun. You stepped out of the consciousness of this planet. And for a moment you had to consider yourself a solar being. Why then step back again? You may have done so involuntarily because the light was so great that it seemed as darkness. But do it again, this time more fully, and let's consider what the changes in our concept of the universe will be. The moment we identify ourselves with the sun, we realize that we've become the source of light, that we too are now shining gloriously. But we also realize that the sunlight is no longer for us, for we can no longer see the sun any more than our little old aeon consciousness. In our old aeon consciousness, we could see ourselves. All around us is perpetual night, but it is the starlight of the body of Our Lady Nuit in which we live and move and have our being. Then from this height we look back upon the little planet Earth, of which we a moment ago were part of, and think of ourselves as shedding light, our light, upon those little individuals we have called our brothers and sisters, the slaves that serve. But we do not stop there. Imagine the sun concentrating his rays for a moment on one tiny spot of Earth. What happens? It's burnt up. It's consumed. It disappears. But our solar consciousness is truth, and though we glance for a moment at the little sphere we've left behind us, and it is no more, yet there is that which remains. What remains? What's happened? We realize that every man and every woman is a star. We gaze around at our wider heritage. We gaze at the body of Our Lady Nuit. We're not in darkness. We're much nearer to her now. What from the little planet looks like specks of light are now blazing like other great suns. And these are truly our brothers and sisters, whose essential and starry nature we've never before seen and realized. These are the remains of those we thought we had left behind. There's plenty of room here. Each one travels in his true path. All is joy. Now, if you want to step back in the old aeon, do so. But try to bear in mind that those around you are in reality suns and stars, and not little shivering slaves. If you are not willing to be a king yourself, still recognize that they have a right to kingship, even as you have, whenever you wish to accept it. And the moment you desire to do so, you have only to remember this. Look at things from the point of view of the sun. Love is the law. Love under will. And that's where we'll end Sunday school today. If you're lucky enough to have a blue equinox, you better hang on to it. If not, the Equinox number 3, volume 1 is published in paperback and is more reasonably available pretty much everywhere. Anyway, Sunday school is dismissed. Get on with your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Eat some leftovers. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.